Hey there, great to see you. Thanks for stopping by. It's Ozzy here again from whensmytime.com. Look, I recorded a little while ago a video giving a sort of potted history about When's My Time and sort of explaining who it's for and why I started it. And it seems one or two of you want to know a little bit more about my own story, my own backstory as to how things go. So I mentioned in that video that I'd spent 12 years in a job I hated and then 20 years in a job that I sort of tolerated. It was okay. I mean, I sort of liked the people that I work with. I didn't see them very often, but I very much liked the people I work with. But the job and me really weren't so great a match. But fear, in both cases, fear kept me rooted to the spot, kept me where I was. But what I'm going to do, I'm not going to take you through each of those 32 years with a detailed description. But what I am going to do is tell you a little bit about that first job that I had and why I hated it so much and what I feel it robbed me of. And this is not to say, oh, poor me and any of that stuff. This was entirely within my control, but I didn't realize it at the time. Does that make sense? It's my fault all this stuff happened. I'm not blaming the job. I'm not blaming the other people involved. It's down to me. And it's that realization that I want to get across to anybody who's watching this today. Anybody who's in any way dissatisfied with the way their life is panning out right now. Because it's often said that you are where you are today because of the best decisions you've taken. And I was where I was then because of the best decisions that I'd taken up to that point. So what I needed to do was to start taking better decisions. But let me tell you a little bit about that. And maybe some of this will resonate with you. To be honest, I hope it doesn't, because I don't want to think of anybody else being in a similar situation. The job was in retail, and it was in probably one of the most famous retailers in the UK. I won't name it. One of the most famous retailers in the UK, certainly at the time, and I'm going back to the 1970s, 1980s, a hugely respected retailer. And I was in a very junior management type role. When you're at that stage in your career, even thinking back to it now is difficult. They own you body and soul. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. I'm not sort of saying it was like, I don't know, akin to slavery. It wasn't. I mean, please, I'm not trying to say that. But you felt as though every decision you made in life had to centre around the company, and you would work in stores up and down the country and so on. Now, we were married, Carol and I, shortly after I joined that company. We were already together when I joined the company, and we got married shortly afterwards. We got our first mortgage, and so clearly from that point of view, there was quite an imperative for me to keep bringing the money in, because we got a mortgage. We needed to keep a roof over our head. Anyway, with that company, I moved out. That was in London. That was when we were living in London. We lived in London for 6 years. With that company, I moved out to where we now live in Sussex. And shortly after that, we had our first child. Now, this is where it gets pretty tough for me, because I never saw him. I very rarely saw him, because I was in work. I'd sort of leave for work in the morning before he got up, and I'd get home after he'd gone to bed, and I'd see him. I mean, we sort of worked every other weekend, but I'd see him, at weekends a little bit. And because of that, by the time he was 3, he could not be convinced that I lived here. He believed I lived somewhere else and was an occasional visitor. Now, everyone else thought that was amusing, thought it was endearing, thought it was sweet. It was like a dagger through my heart. Here was a little boy that I loved so much that I rarely got to see. And I just wanted to spend all my time with him. And with Carol, of course. Now, I know that's the same for many, many people. But it was not, it sort of compounded the fact that I didn't enjoy the job. There was no redeeming feature to it. Sorry, I'm getting quite emotional about this now, even, you know, sort of nearly 30 years later. There was no redeeming feature. I hated the job as well. Hated it. But fear kept me going there because I was frightened of losing our home, frightened of all of those things. And I didn't realise that I could just stand up and make it different. Do something different. Well, a little while after, sort of a few years after, that went on. And Carol, we had our second son. Now, there were issues with the birth. We knew there were going to be because there had been with our older son's birth. So Carol was in hospital for rather longer than a usual birth. And in those days, they used to keep you in for 10 days. Now, our second son decided to come a few days early and decided to come on December the 15th. Now, even with my rudimentary maths, I can work out that 10 days on to December the 15th means December the 25th, Christmas Day. And we were told by the hospital that actually, no, you won't be able to come out on, Carol and new son would not be able to come out on Christmas Day because there would be nobody there to supervise or make the decisions that were necessary and supervise the discharge. In fact, it would be 2 or 3 days later. Now, imagine we've got our older son, 6 years old, missing his mum, desperate to have his baby brother home, and it's Christmas. So I sort of lobbied with those in control, and after much pleading, much pleading, they agreed to let Carol and our baby out early. So we got home. Now, of course, Carol's been through a rough time of it, so who's in charge of Christmas this year? Well, it's me, isn't it? You know, so I've had sort of a busy time at work. Neighbours very kindly looking after our older son in this time, reinforcing the fact that I'm never here. But I've got Christmas off. And so Christmas Eve, we're all very excited, and we eventually get our older son to sleep, and it was about midnight before we got everything ready and we could go to bed and everything prepared for Father Christmas's visit. And so I got into bed, and it was just after midnight, and the phone rang. Now, what I haven't mentioned to this point is I had recently been appointed to manage the opening of a brand new store. Now, one thing that you may not be aware of, and there's no reason for you to be aware of it, is that new alarm systems in largish stores take some time to settle down and calibrate. That night, that particular Christmas Eve, there was a huge storm hit. Winds were buffeting here, and I had not been in bed for more than 10 minutes, I don't think, when the telephone rang. It's, hello, Mr. Aries, it's the police here. There's an alarm going off at the store. I wonder if you could meet one of our officers there. And I said, oh, it's the storm, isn't it? He said, well, we think so, yes. But we knew that it was the storm that had set the thing off. But anyway, out of bed, take the drive, meet the police outside the store. I open up the store, because I'm a key holder. I open up the store, go in, we inspect the building, can find no evidence of a break-in, so we reset the alarm. I go home. I get home about 2:30, into bed. 10 minutes later, the exact same thing happens again. Into the car and meet the police, and we sort of have a begrudging chuckle about the fact that we're on a fool's errand here. Go around the store, see that everything's okay, back home. So by this time, I'm thinking, well, I mean, our younger son will be up and excited in an hour or two, wanting to open his presents. Our older son, and and I've got lots to do. So there's little point in me going to bed at this stage. So anyway, we have a lovely Christmas morning together, and I'm in charge of cooking Christmas lunch. Look at me. So I'm in charge, but I'll be honest, even at this distance, I mean, maybe the distance in time is making me look back with fonder memories of and kinder memory, being kinder to myself than I need to be or should be about the quality of the lunch that I provide. But I think I did a pretty good job. So we've got the table groaning with Christmas fare just all laid out, and guess what happens? Yes! It's the phone and it's the police and saying, can you meet us at the store? And I said yes, but in that moment of saying yes, I was also saying no, this is never, ever, ever going to happen to me again. It's Christmas Day. We've got a new baby. I've been up all night. We've got an excited son who wants to spend time with me, who thinks I live somewhere else. This is not going to happen again. And it was at that point that I decided that no, that's it. Now, I didn't, and I urge you, if you're in this position, I didn't just storm in and say, that's it, I quit. I couldn't afford to. I had to work out what my exit strategy was. I had to do that. But it was at that point that I realised I hadn't done any of that before. I just moaned and groaned, and fear had kept me from sort of looking up and saying, what else is out there? What else can I do? Look, if any of that resonates with you, even to a tenth of a degree of what it was like for me, what I want you to do is raise your head above the parapet, have a look around and say to yourself, when's my time? And I can tell you the answer is now. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, somewhere either down here or above there, there's going to be a button that says subscribe. If you click on that, you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. So do that. Leave me a comment below as well. And you can always email me at ozzy@whensmytime.com. And I'll see you soon with the next instalment. Cheers then. Bye-bye.